Ready to talk about innovation that's changing the world and meet the people that are making it happen? Welcome to the Global Code podcast.
Here, we go beyond the buzzwords, beyond the headlines to uncover the real stories behind technology's global impact.
From AI to clean tech, blockchain to biotech, we are exploring innovations that matter and talking to pioneers driving change in every corner of the world with a focus on people, purpose, and possibility.
Wondering how AI and emerging technologies will shape your future?
Yeah, we're wondering that too.
So we are asking the boldest thinkers and builders we can find.
Come with us on this journey into the heart of innovation across borders and boundaries.
This is Global Code.
Tech for everyone, everywhere. Hello, everyone. Today I'm excited for us to be talking to Chandrajeet Pawar. Chandrajeet Pawar is a data scientist in the utility industry where he develops data-driven solutions to improve energy efficiency and build a more sustainable and resilient grid. His work focuses on easing strain during peak demand hours and promoting smart energy use through innovative analytics. So, Chandrajeet, today, the way we start the podcast is through a fun fact. So, can you give us a quick fun fact about yourself?
I actually am I actually go join this group for line dancing every couple days a month. So it's surprising whenever I tell anyone that I love country music and everyone's like, why and how? So I do enjoy country music and then line dancing with this local group.
That's hilarious. Because now I'm wondering, do you wear like the big hat and the cowboy boots?
People do. People come in like shoes and like hats and everything. No, I don't. I just show up in my jeans and t-shirt. Probably shorts starting soon now with the weather warming up. But no, I don't wear hat and all that. I have.
Well, man, if you're gonna commit, you gotta commit.
It's more for the music and the dance, and of course, like the people are very nice.
So you're not doing any data analysis of the moves and the steps?
I am not. No, it's just.
That's good.
So thanks for that fun fact. That's definitely a fun fact. Kicking things off here, if you could just share with our listeners and our audience, what does it even mean to be a data scientist in your industry? So when we think of utilities and energy, what does a data scientist actually do?
Wow, where do I start? It actually touches many aspects of utility industry, but at least from what I work on, I work on the demand response side of it's more on the distribution side. So we have these demands, especially during peak hours, say summer 6 to 9 p.m. or winter 6 to 9 a.m. Everyone's like flipping the switches on. During summer, people are coming from office. It's hot outside. The AC is running high, and then people come from office, and everything's like starting cooking and everything. Or in winter 6 to 9 a.m., it's frigid outside. The HVAC's running high, and then of course, like people are getting up, those coffee machines and all that stuff. So especially during those hours, the demand on the grid is so high that there's a question, do we produce more, or a better solution, can we somehow reduce the demand on the grid? Can we incentivize customers to reduce that load during those? Can we have some customers, if not all, shift the usage from those peak hours? So my focus is on analyzing the usage. Can customers who are on flat rate that do not care when the energy is used, can we move those customers to a time of use? So we charge them more during those demand hours. And then can we shift their usage to other hours to reduce the demand? So that's just one aspect, right? But then I know there are other teams, other data scientists working on asset management. We have so many transmission lines going on. What's the health of all the assets on the grid? what's the demand on individual assets on the grid, right? The lifespan and all that stuff. So that's another one. Or even we could look into forecasting the usage 10 years from now. What does the demand on the grid looks like with the advent of EV adoption, like the electric vehicles, or even the AI with data centers coming up? What's the demands going to look like in 5, 10, 15 years from now? How do we scale the assets to meet that demand? Or again, coming back to this demand reduction, yes, we know there's going to be increased demand. Can we shift the demand across these 24 hours we have versus like everything just being at certain hour of the day? So yeah, it just depends on different aspects, and it's quite interesting how data science can be applied to all these different problems within one industry.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. So really, it sounds like for you personally, it's this understanding of how what the demand is, how it's being used, timing of it.
Right.
We shift the actual demand curve and things like that. Are you doing a kind of a cost benefit analysis of new investments versus shifting the demand curve itself and things like that, or is that
I am
separate teams?
actually, yes, I am. So we just introduced new rates. So the utility company I work for is a regulated one within the state. So whenever we introduce new rates, we have to show an EM&V study. We have to evaluate what does the effect looks like after the customers adopt to these new rates. So I am looking into twofold analysis. Once the usage analysis, that once the customers have shifted to this new rate, has the usage actually moved? That was the incentive. The time of use rate is to move the demand from these peak hours to other hours of the day. Has that happened, right? And second is, okay, if the demand has shifted, have customers now benefited by the dollar value? Are their bills reduced now? Because yes, we've been charging them more during these peak hours and incentivizing them to shift the usage to other hours, which are some couple hours in the day. It's even discounted, like super discounted prices. So are customers using that? Are their overall bills reduced what they were before, or are they paying more with that? So it's a twofold analysis: the usage as well as the dollar incentives. If that's actually translating into those two.
Well, it makes me feel better that someone's actually looking at the impacts of the decision. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And it actually makes us curious. And I'm sure our listeners would love to know, how do you even get into the space? Can you just share your career journey with us a little bit?
So I actually landed accidentally. There was an opening. So energy is not my background. During engineering, I probably took like one course in basics of energy, and that was a mandate, not even an optional, I guess. And then I got my bachelor's in software engineering, and then I landed in finance industry. So for many, many years, more than 10 years, I was in a finance domain, which was okay. I was software engineer by trade. Career was going fine, but I don't know. I just realized I hit a plateau at certain point. And I was like, data science, this is like 7, 8, 9 years ago, I don't remember. Data science is the next field. Probably I should do something in that space. It always was interesting to me. So I enrolled into my master's program, got my master's. And then while I was getting my master's, this opening came up for a data engineer. That they were looking for a data engineer with a Java background. So I'm like, okay, I'm already getting my master's in data analytics. This team is working with data scientists. I can actually get my foot in the door as a data engineer with Java if they want that. And that's how I pitched my interview was like, hey, give me a chance. Give me 6 months. I'm not familiar with this industry. I am still getting my master's. I'm new to this field, but 6 months, let me prove it, and we can go from there. And I think I don't know what, they were probably desperate or not. I don't know, but they hired me. Yeah. But no, as soon as I joined, it was very interesting because it was like just switching from finance to energy. I remember going through Energy 101 all over again, just understanding the basics of how this industry works, how where does the revenue come. And that's at least it was a myth for me. And when I discussed with others, it's a myth that industry, like energy industry, utility companies make money with the bills that they charge to the customer. It is not. Especially in the regulated industry, these companies make money with the assets, the grid, the systems they have, but not from the bill that they charge to customers.
Okay, we have to follow up there. Say more, please. Like, what do you mean?
So,
and before you go there, Chandrajeet, can you give us like a energy 101 for our viewers? Because I don't know what a grid is. When you say grid, I'm thinking like a tower standing somewhere in the middle of the farm or something. So can you give us
that tower
overview?
standing middle of the farm is just one pole transmitting from point or a mediator between one transmission point to another. It's just relaying those wires. But when I say grid, it's basically in two parts. One is distribution and one is transmission, right? So, actually 3 parts: generation, transmission, and distribution. So that tower in the middle of the farm is that transmission phase. So what happens is you generate your energy, right? You generate with the nuclear power, you generate using coal power, gas power, or renewable energies. That's where the world is headed right now. But whatever your source of energy is, you generate this high scale energy, and then it's at the power plant where it gets generated. But you need to now move this energy to the end users. But to move that energy to the end user, you transmit. That's those lines and lines of power lines with those high towers. So you transmit the energy from the generation to the distribution facility. And then in your local neighborhoods, you'll see these small substations. When you walk by, you'll see it's behind this cages, somewhat not aesthetic, but a block of many devices. And those are the substations. So you bring your energy from your generation through the transmission lines to this distribution substations. And that's when individual lines go out to the neighborhoods. We step down the energy with transformers and all that stuff and bring it to your household. And that's the distribution. So you can be in generation field, you can be in transmission field, you can be in distribution field. So my focus is on the distribution or consumption side. So yeah, again, that took time to understand. Okay, energy. When we just say energy, you flip the switch on and like light turns on. But that flipping the switch on, it takes the generation, transmission, distribution, and finally behind your house there's a meter that actually brings the energy in. And the meter is what we actually analyze the usage on.
Okay. So how do they make money then, you said?
So all these generation power, like the power plants, the transmission lines, that pole in that middle of the farm, right? The big tower. And then all these substations, the transformers, all these are assets then. So all those assets, those lands, those power plants is what the revenue comes from.
But okay, Chandrajeet, still not getting it. So, but how is the revenue generated? Like, is it because my assumption is those assets are only useful because people are using energy, right? Otherwise, those assets would not be useful at all.
Right. So the fuel,
correct?
So the fuel, so you buy and sell energy as well, right? Any utility company, when they generate power, right? They also buy and sell power as well. Right? So not one company necessarily generates 100% of the energy all the customers need, but they have surplus, they have deficit, right? Depending on the time of the day, time of the month, time of the week, or whatever, right? But then this is where the transmission of energy. So when the distribution is happening or the transmission is happening from the generation, it doesn't necessarily transmit only to the jurisdiction it serves, but other jurisdictions as well. If you look at this energy map across US, these are like, it's divided into several sectors. and all these sectors are interconnected as well. So that is why when we get these blackouts or brownouts, which get very much highlighted in the news, because they don't happen often, is because these grids and the systems are interconnected, and the energy is like transferred within these. So whenever there's deficit within one particular sector, the energy is transferred from one to another based on the buy and sell and all that stuff, demand and all. So these are all projected ahead of time based on weather, based on demand and all the forecasts. And those are bought and sold way in advance based on the even the fuel mix is involved in that. Again, this a discovery for me as well. Like the prices for the fuel fluctuate based on the time of the day as well. Like nuclear is way cheaper during the night, and that coal power, right? Because that substitutes that high demand, so it gets very high price during those 6 to 9 a.m. p.m. summer winter hours. So it all depends on that, and all the energy buy and sell also depends on that. So usually in a perfect world, all these transmissions happen seamlessly, but the perfect storm, the highest demand on that particular hour of the day, right? When all those factors combine, that's when you get brownouts and blackout. And yeah, these industries do not want to make news for that, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a very interconnected system, and there's interdependencies between all the pieces of the puzzle that you've already shared with us. But what I want to do is I want to pull us up a little bit further, if you're okay. I know you're a data scientist, but if you're okay with going up, I just want to get a sense of, we're in 2025 now, and as you're thinking about kind of where the energy industry has been and where it is today, like what is top of mind for the energy industry today? I imagine like ongoing increased consumption of energy is because that's your bread and butter. But it's obviously what affects all of us on a day to day. But what are some of like the top 3 things that you think are sort of top of mind for the industry in 2025?
Not only 2025, but future, because we usually plan for next at least 15, 20, 30 years. Because as I said, when we build a grid, right, whatever grids are getting built right now are probably considering future and not just 2025. So the main goal is how do we make our systems resilient, right? It could be climate. And when I say climate, not just carbon emissions, but also the climate effect on the grid. How does a cold wave affect? How does a snowstorm affect? How does a hurricane affect, right? And what we've realized is the traditional grid or when I say grid, right, it's all the transmission, like the generation, transmission, distribution all together. But the traditional grid has failed us in these extreme environments. I don't know where your geography located, but Texas winter storm a couple years ago, there was a brownout in Carolinas on a Christmas Eve. So when these typical cold fronts come in, or even recently in Western North Carolina, there was a hurricane, Helene rolled in. So all these grids, right, the transmission lines and all crumble. So what do we do in that sense? So the move is, or the vision for future grid is more of a combination of not only traditional energy sources, but renewable energy definitely, but microgrids. Like, can we have the generation, transmission, and distribution more localized than having it in one giant generation plant, having these miles and miles and miles of transmission lines, and then distributing? Can we have that locally, especially in these rural mountainous areas? Can we have a local grid that generates based on, say, solar energy in one? I'm not saying that that's the only solution, but like, for example, it generates on a solar energy and then distributes within that community right away. Because in such cases, even if a storm rolls in and we get a blackout, but to get back, to get back to normal is easier than fixing all those transmission lines if they get severe, or any other physical harm that happens, right? So definitely microgrids is something this industry is looking into. And then also the bigger question is, with the adoption of EVs and uh, AI, with the data centers, right? The increased demand on the grid. How do we meet that demand? Uh, can data centers be powered with these microgrids again? So we are not spinning up energy at these mega plants, but can a microgrid serve this data center? That's one option. Or can data centers be on their dedicated grid itself, right? With EV adoption, and that actually plugs in into my research again, where I'm trying to look at the time of use rate. If EVs are being adopted at more residential spaces, can we then incentivize these customers to move their usage during those nightly hours when we have energy mostly generated from nuclear power, which is cheaper, efficient, cleaner? Can we have your EV charged during those hours? Will give you a better rate for your energy consumed. Your bills would be reduced, but also the demand on the grid would be lesser than as soon as you come from home, 6 p.m., you start plugging EV. And especially in next 10 years, we are forecasting EV adoption to be picking up. Imagine all customers came home and at 6 p.m. everyone's plugging in EV. So these are all the, like, and again, I'm not even saying all, these are some factors or some concerns that's definitely at the top of people, especially in forecasting and planning on the generation side.
So, just a follow-up question on that point. I mean, this is really interesting, the sort of localized microgrids. Could this also be a way of addressing what is already an uneven distribution of energy? Because we know that certain communities, rural communities, poor communities, communities of color, tend to take the brunt of very expensive energy costs. And that usually is leaking into their livelihood, quite frankly, right? We're talking sometimes people are paying up to more than 50% of their wages towards energy costs. So, I mean, is this one way of addressing what seems like a system that is not necessarily working for everybody?
So that's what. So I know we already have some analytics on our end that can we actually also have some incentive programs for customers to improve their home energy efficiency. So not only reducing the energy, right? If reducing energy or like shifting energy is one problem or one solution, but what if your home is not isolated enough? The insulation is not good enough. What if your HVAC is not efficient enough? Well, it's using more energy to pump less efficiently the cool air in your house or hot air in your house. Your water heaters, if they are not efficient, it's wasting energy but not giving you the comfort, right? And we've seen these being problems in those underserved communities. So there are some programs already. I don't want to be political, but there have been some rebates that were in place for energy efficiency upgrades and all that stuff, which I don't know if they're going to survive or not. But there have been programs to incentivize customers to replace those appliances, to fix their insulation, to have the windows and doors insulated better, right? So if with combined with that, the energy efficiency with energy reduction or shift of usage. So these are like all, um, it's not like one solution, but like all programs need to work together for a better or efficient usage of the energy. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I guess going back to your your role, right? You're a data scientist. So what is the role of data and what type of data you're collecting and where are you getting it from to do all this analysis and forecasting and figuring out, somebody has bad insulation and, uh, inefficient heaters, etc.
Right. So primary data that I use is that behind the meter, what I was explaining is like every house or every unit, being it residential, commercial, industrial, we have a meter installed at the end unit. So we know how much energy is being used, given the meters are functioning properly, right? Which mostly are, because that's how we get customers billed anyways. So we have this data at 15 minutes granularity. It's an industry standard, not just this for this particular company, but across utility industry. There are these they're called AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure meters. So we get this 15-minute granular data, so we can look at the shift in the usage every 15 minutes. When's the spike? When's the usage? Average usage? What's the minimum of the day? What's the maximum of the day? And that's when we know that those 6 to 9 a.m., 6 to 9 p.m. usage, right? The high demand. It's not only on the distribution side, but the demand is because customers are using that. So we look at the meters. So that's like the main source. So we call this 8760, which is 15-minute data, but we aggregate into hourly. So we have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So for each customer, we have this 8,760 data point for whole year. And then we have millions and millions of customers with 8760. And that's the basis of my analysis, at least. But then we add that to weather. We have hourly weather forecast as well as actual temperatures that were in the region. We combine that with some demographic data, which is readily available from third party. We pay for that, but it's mostly housing. What's the square footage when the house was built? Which neighborhood it is in? Or what's the socioeconomical breakout in those particular neighborhoods? So we combine that with those demographic and socioeconomic data as well. And then, so this is just on the usage side. But then on the asset side, the same thing. We have sensors on all the assets. So what's the demand on these assets? We have sensors, real-time data that come in, that particular transformer had this much load at this particular time. And again, that's every very granular data as well. So it just depends on what use case you're using or working on, and then you work on that data.
I've never really thought about the granularity of the data available to utilities. So that's actually pretty in depth. I'm sure it allows you to build incredibly robust models. I'm wondering, and again, because you can see it almost real time, you have this 15-minute increments of data that you can see real time almost. What have you seen that actually works in terms of shifting that demand curve?
So we have a couple programs. The very basic for many, it's a legacy actually in different utility companies. It's called demand response. I don't know, as an energy customer, if you guys are aware of that, if your utility company provides it, but it's called demand response. So again, as a utility company, we know already what the demands, like that 6 to 9 p.m., 6 to 9 a.m. I will go back to that because it's proven. We've known that. We've seen years and years and years and seasons over seasons that this is the time when the demand is high. So what we do is, if you enroll into this program as a customer, we do split. This sounds concerning to many customers, but they don't understand the comfort is not compromised. Is we take control of your HVAC, and we cycle through your HVAC on and off for 15 minutes during those demand, like the high demand hours. So rather than HVAC being turned on for 3 hours straight, we cycle those on and off. But your thermostat is not going to change because your insulation, right, that plays in. So once your house is warmed up, so we give an example of a winter, say it's 6 a.m., it's 35 degrees outside, and your comfort level is at around 72 degrees. So your HVAC has already reached up to that, right? Your HVAC has already heated your house, your thermostat records 72, but then you don't have to have the HVAC on for 3 hours to maintain that 72. What we do is we install a device on your HVAC. It's a remote signal control device. And then we send a signal that cycle your HVAC with 15 minutes on off cycle for certain, we are not saying for 3 hours, but for certain time. So, and we can then cycle this particular event through different parts of the circuit across this window to reduce this demand somewhat. Maybe not completely, but somewhat, to keep one check on that. Another way we do this is with the same demand response program. We also have this thermostat control program as well, which customers have an option to override. But if you sign up for that, we will control your thermostat on certain days, not every day, especially during those on demand or high demand days. We can control your thermostat to preheat your house. So if your comfort is 72, we'll heat it to 75 a couple hours before that demand is high. So once your house is heated to 75, you're deep in sleep anyways. You are nice under your blankets at, say, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Your house is heated to 75, and then we release the control, and then your temperature slowly goes down to 72, which is your comfort level anyways. So, and these are just numbers. I'm not saying we heat up to 75. but what happens then is, because we are preheating your house during that low demand, when the energy is cleaner, especially during those nightly hours, it's most probably nuclear energy. So we are using that to preheat your house, and then you are back to your comfort level. But your HVAC is not actively trying to get to 72 during those high demand. So that's another, right? And then the next one is the dollar incentive, that we're going to charge you more during the 6 to 9 a.m. So rather, you preheat yourself or give us the control. But if you preheat yourself, you can then, if you have a programmable thermostat, you can set to preheat before these peak hours, get it preheated, and then your HVAC is not engaged for next 3 hours. So these are certain combination and couple options. There are many other programs as well, but these are all incentive driven. To sign up into DR, we give you monthly credit during those seasons. To sign up for your thermostat control, we give you a monthly credit because you signed up. You're helping us save the energy. And then again, on being on time of use, just shifting your load, you can save energy because you're not being charged high for those high demand hours. But you can also take, especially your dishwasher. If you can plan accordingly, your dishwasher can run during the night, which is a highly discounted period. That's just one example, right? You can have your washer, the washer dryers. Yeah. So what we've discovered, incentives matter, right? I know some customers are very energy conscious, not just dollar value, but carbon footprint and all that stuff. So we call those green customers. So they will actively do this anyways. But then if it's augmented by these dollar incentives, we've seen customer adoption, and we've seen a success in these programs for sure. Not all customers want this, but whoever can enroll, we promote these. And then, of course, with each program, we have an evaluation to do. We do make sure all these programs are working or not. We'll do an evaluation of what's the success, how many customers enrolled, how many, the attrition rate and all that stuff. Even with time of use, I've seen some customers enroll, but then after a couple of months, this is not for me, and then they'll unenroll. So we'll have to, we do consider all that stuff as well. And
I'm sorry.
I was going to go back to Ashish's question, that how do we gather data on the installation and all that stuff. So we also have a program, and again, it's an incentive that customers can request home audit. So we send an auditor that checks your insulation for your windows, your doors, attic. They'll come with a thermal gun and look at all the leakage if you have, and they'll tell you which is a problematic area. Do you need to do anything? They'll check your water heater. They'll check your HVAC. They'll tell you how efficient it is, and also when they visit, they'll give you a pack of LED bulbs. They'll give you um, um, a fixture to attach it to your faucets, a shower head that is low water, like it what, how do I say that? It's high pressure but low water flow. So you're using less water. So when you're showering, your hot water, you're not using as much. So these are like couple incentives we provide. But with that, we also capture the data. We get the insulation quality of the house. We get the overall efficiency, the energy efficiency of the appliances and all that stuff. So that's a very good quality data, because we do have that from third party, which is like estimates. But then this is our primary source for home audits that we get this data from.
You're blowing my mind right now. What you're basically making me realize is that I had no idea how just the business incentives worked for utilities, at least for energy utilities.
Oh, definitely. Because as I said, the bills, we don't make money with the bill. So if your bill is low, it's good for us, because we don't want, like, the problem is to generate this energy. We have standards to maintain, right? Again, being a regulated energy industry, we have these carbon goals. We have also with the rates that we rolled out, we do have to focus on the customer benefits as well, right? So we do have to make sure that customers are not actually getting charged more. These programs are working with the DR efficiency, with the DR program, or demand response program, with the thermostat control, with the time of use. So we do have to make sure, like, yes, we are providing the incentives, but the incentives are also working. We are not just like giving the credit, but customers end up paying more. So
I think,
yeah.
I also think what you're doing for me, and I think maybe for all of us, is that you're making us realize that energy companies are not trying to like get us.
No.
Because I think that's what people feel, right? That's what people feel. People feel like energy companies are out there to make money off of our backs. But what you're telling us is that, no, we're not making any money off your backs. In fact, the money's coming from somewhere else. Which leads me to another question about you being a data scientist. I mean, you're getting so much information, it sounds like, from both the third party, but also like the data that you have access to through your customers. Are there gaps in data that you feel that the energy sector has that we should really be filling in order to kind of address some of these long-term challenges or needs that you're talking about?
Definitely. So home audits, again, not every customer gets home audits, right? So we do have that good, like the best quality data, because it's a first hand, right? The auditor has gone and examined and inspected everything, and we have that. But it's probably less than 10% of customers. So we don't have that. The demographic data, the housing data, these are all estimates from third party. And we know, so we always, whenever we build any models using this, there's a grain of salt, like a very big grain of salt. All these are estimates. Like, yes, these are more directional, right? The models are fine. Like, it will always, not always, many a times, most of the times, the models are like work and will give you a good, at least an estimate. But then these, we have to always emphasize as data scientists to the stakeholders, like, these are directional. I mean, it's always a constant struggle to like emphasize that, yes, all this data is internal to us. We have access to it, but the quality of the data, right? Definitely could be improved. Even when I said the meter data, right? We have this 15 meter granularity. It's still transmitted over radio frequency, right? So there are gaps. So all these meters talk to each other. So the data, this is another very interesting. That was one of my case studies, actually. So all these meters talk to each other and they form a network. And then they relay the data back to a router. And these routers are positioned in the neighborhoods across different locations. And these routers, then all this data is transmitted back to the main hub, right? But since it's radio frequency, since these are data packets being sent, right, wirelessly, we do see loss of packets. We do see that. It's not like these meters are connected through your electric wire, but that's the energy. But the actual data consumption is wireless. So we don't have any physical way to get all the data back. So we have seen loss of packets. We've seen delay of packets. Many a times, as I said, like all these meters like talk to each other and generate this network. And then the lead meter itself goes down. So, but everything is not lost. It does come back often, and then it transmits all the data back again. But there's a delay. Many a times we end up not getting some packets, so we estimate. So there have been estimates as well. So when I say 8760, right, all these 24 hours, 7 days, 365 days, right? That 8760 is not always 100% accurate. So there are estimates. So definitely that could be better if I was in charge of it, but I am not. And of course, like I understand it's a very high lift, right? To make sure of all the data packets make back. Because again, it's a wireless transmission. There have, unless like there is this new trend that they're going to implement 5G to get the data packets back. So that's where the industry is moving to. So that's like the next infrastructure upgrade in that realm. I'm very excited for that because I do need that data. That's my day-to-day data set that I use. So I'm very excited for the 5G upgrade.
So as a data scientist, like we know that AI is being used to help collect data, to analyze data, et cetera, et cetera. Like as a data scientist, do you see the utility of AI in your work and what you all are trying to do in the energy sector?
Definitely. So I am not plugged in directly because all my work is more on the demand side, and we've been using more fundamental like statistics, very boring statistic evaluation, which is interesting to me. But I've seen AI implementation, especially on the on field technicians, right? When they go out in the field, problem diagnostics or image analytics, like they look at certain asset. They can use drones now. Earlier, they would have to climb the poles to look at the assets, but we have these drones going on, catching images. Again, going back to your tower in the middle of the farm, you don't actually have to drive out there. We just can send the drones or have satellite imagery. There was another use case I know. This is even before AI. Was image analytics was high when it was newer, that we were trying to analyze rooftop solar from satellite images. So you were trying to like capture images from the satellites and then identify how many customers have rooftop or swimming pools for that matter, because pool pump is another high demand in the EU. So how many households have pool pumps? That's just like one, right? So there are many aspects. I know people are actually actively using AI, especially on AR, the augmented reality side. Again, you can actually diagnose a particular problem, not actually getting up on a pole, but if you can have a virtual reality component to that. So we've had a couple demos and I was fascinated. Like, this is amazing. Like, people are actively trying to find solutions to the problems that were solved traditionally, but can we make it better and have solutions faster and efficient?
When we were talking in our pre-meeting, one of the things you had mentioned around AI was, most folks are thinking of it from a generative, language model perspective, but on the other end, there's an impact around energy demand itself. Do you mind speaking about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Because AI, what's AI? At the end, it's again the statistics models I'm working on a large scale, right? But to make those models work, you need computation. So even a single query in your chat GPT, whatever you try, like, hey, how do I get from here to there or whatever, that particular solution itself is churning so much computation in the back end. So that is something people many a times fail to understand, is to have the computation power, to have those computers run 24/7, you need that energy. And especially how the AI is being adopted. Every morning you wake up, every app now has some AI component in it. But for that AI component, you have the data centers in the backend running 24/7, consuming that much energy. So that's, again, has been on the minds when we are planning for that 5, 10, 15 year forecast. What's the demand going to look like? Where are the new data centers coming up? What is the energy demand on those data centers? And going back to that microgrid, right? So rather than having those data centers plugged into our existing transmission, can we have a microgrid microgrid servicing this particular data center? And how can we generate energy in this microgrid? Are we going to have, I don't know if you guys are plugged into this domain or not, but there also have been news about small scale nuclear, because nuclear plants, again, traditionally, we've always thought of these big nuclear plants. But there have been couple examples, successful examples, where a small scale nuclear was built in a neighborhood and then service the energy right there. So is that scalable? Can we do that? I know nuclear has this bad rep. I mean, everyone has that, of course, that one Chernobyl, right? Everyone's watched that series probably. But it's the cleanest, it's the most efficient, it's most reliable energy as well. The technology has, I'm not no means nuclear engineer, but just following and understanding, the technology has advanced so like years and years now that it's safest as of now. So even that's another focus that the industry is having, is can we serve these data centers using not just microgrids, but cleaner microgrids as well? Because we don't want to have, again, fire new coal plants. More overall, the industry is moving towards sunsetting the coal plants and replacing them with other alternative energy. Not necessarily the renewable energy. Some are being replaced by gas, which is somewhat cleaner, but still not the renewable. So yeah, so industry is like still kind of trading or like walking that fine line. There's not only just shifting to renewable because you want yes, sustainable, but also reliable, right? So how do we find that fine balance of achieving our carbon goals, achieving a sustainable goal, achieving the equitable goal, but also being reliable? So it's not always straightforward, right or wrong, but it's a gray area, I guess.
We're almost coming to a close now. Ashish, did you want to add anything? I had one more question, but you can go.
No, I didn't have to add anything. Listening to this conversation, basically, I always thought the utility industry was like, oh, generation and paying our bills and that's it. But it sounds like it's like 5G, drone technology, small nuclear plants. So a lot seems to be going on. But yeah, Sarima, go for it.
I was just curious, like there are a lot of like energy tech companies that are popping up in the startup world that are trying to look at issues of efficiency, sustainability, new sources of energy. Is there a partnership or collaboration happening across those company and sort of traditional companies and industries?
Oh, definitely. Yes, but yes, partnerships are happening, but the company I work for, we are more focusing on in-house because we believe we have the talent and the knowledge and the domain knowledge, especially because our experience has been, yes, we've had these partnerships in the past, but scaling that is a challenge.
Hmm.
There are ideas, there are solutions, yes. And I'm not saying we don't, we still partner with such companies. Definitely amazing ideas that come from these partnerships. But overall, we've figured that building it in house has been efficient because many a times, my personal experience, we did partner, we did outsource something, and then we ended up writing it from scratch again.
Hmm.
But no, I'm not
Right.
saying like every partnership is that way. But
Sure.
it's been exciting just to see what the industry is moving towards with all the
Mhm.
ideas. And as I said, like I was fascinated with that VR implementation of, but that's just one aspect, right? So all these companies are coming up with ideas, uh, uh, and it's fascinating just to see what the new innovations happening. But again, I was not plugged in this industry until I joined on my current job, and it's been a revelation that, oh my god, like energy industry has so many layers to it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, Chandrajit, you should be a spokesperson for the utility industry. Honestly, I think I'm walking away with a lot of learnings and a lot of appreciation for
I
the
don't consider
what utility
myself,
industry is
no,
going.
I don't consider myself highly qualified to do that, to be a spokesperson. This is just what I know. I may have misspoken. If that's the case, I also apologize. If anyone watching also has better knowledge and like, oh, this guy is not telling the right stuff. But this is what I know. This is my knowledge, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there are highly qualified people who can explain this much better in a simpler way.
No, you're just being too humble. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think everybody, all of us kind of agree. But it was great talking to you. We look forward to having you in the future, maybe once, all the energy stuff and local nuclear 5G stuff is figured out. Um, and yeah, anything to add?
I was just gonna say your motto should be "Energy is exciting" because that's what I got from you at the
Oh,
end of
I am
this.
very
I was like,
excited. I keep telling Ashish is like,
all in on the energy.
definitely. No, I've been, so I was working with banks for almost 14 years total. And I've only been in energy industry for like 6 years now. I told Ashish, like, I don't think I'm ever going to switch this domain. Like, there's so much, and especially like where the future is heading, right? There are so many good problems to
Yes.
solve. There's so much like where the AI is going, where the EV adoption is going. How are we going to solve this problem with cleaner, sustainable, equitable energy? No, I definitely think like it's also like everyone needs energy. This is a never gonna die industry. Everyone needs their morning coffee.
Well, thank you so much, Chandrajit. It was great, great, great having you and for enlightening us on the energy industry. And you might have gotten some people to want to knock on your door and say, "How do I get in?" Because if he's smiling that much, there's something right going on there.
Thank you.
Down.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's talk about it. Chandrajit and the energy sector. What did either one of you take away?
I'll say for me, I was shocked by a couple of things. One, I recognized that I had no idea how utilities made money, apparently. I was convinced
You and me
that
both.
they were trying to charge me as much money as possible for my bill because they were counting every dollar and every penny
Yeah.
and they wanted me to, just crank up the thermostat or crank it down in the summer or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
And it completely just blew my mind. And I think with him explaining their actual business model, now I'm actually a lot less skeptical when I see things like,
oh, we'll give you a rebate to make sure that your house is energy efficient and things like that. I'll be honest, I was kind of skeptical of those things, but now that I know that that's not how they make their money and that they're actually trying to protect the capacity of the grid itself, I'm excited. I'm gonna go try and find some rebates.
Ashish?
Yeah, for me, I guess, I what I took away is, as you said, Salima, energy is exciting. I didn't realize they're using everything from 5G to AR to AI and nuclear power, all of it together. So yeah, initially I was thinking, because in the security industry, usually when we are thinking like utility, it's like, oh, they're running Windows 95 and
Right.
getting hacked left and right, and their
Right.
stuff is outdated, things like that. So I always had this image where I thought like there's like 20-year-old computers lying around everywhere, but it looks like that's not the case, and they're actually adopting a lot of the emerging tech and latest tech to, as Shadan mentioned, save us money, make themselves more money. And with AI, we kind of need that because we are consuming more and more energy as
Mhm.
every day passes
Mhm.
by.
Mhm. Yeah. I sort of walked away with a slightly different feeling, and you both can push me on this one. I kind of walked away with they're still in slow mode. I don't know why. I had this feeling that maybe it was because listen, I understand that sectors like the energy sector is an old sector. It's kind of like oil and gas. You know what I mean? Like, and those are interconnected. But they are an old sector. They've been around for a long time, and my I guess maybe it's wrong, but I think possibly not, that the expectation is that there's going to be more synergy and collaboration with startups, with sort of companies that are not old industry, so that they can really push the possibilities of what their technologies can do, or how technologies could accelerate both, like on all three aspects that he talked about, right? Um, I don't know. I walked away with, although I agree. It was nice to hear that he said that they thought that internally they have kind of the infrastructure and the people, the talent to really move the needle. I find historically, though, that you have to really push the level of innovation within an industry that is old in a way that I think sometimes can be hard. Not because they don't want to. I think that the intention is there, and I think that that's what they're trying to do with the kinds of things he was talking about. I just feel like energy is such a fundamental part of our lives, right? In terms of like us living in like I'm just going to talk about North America. In North America, it is hugely intertwined with everything that we do on a day to day, that I appreciate this sort of focus on sustainability, the focus on making sure everybody is getting the kind of like the energy needs are being met, while at the same time making sure that we have the infrastructure and the grids that can sustain, our consumption. But I think, like for example, North America consumes something like 7 planets worth of energy. So it's also wild that, we in this part of the world who consume the most from the rest of the world, um, have to contend with these questions. But I also feel like, I don't know, I feel like for me, I felt like I wanted to hear more about sort of the innovation side of things, given what we're also facing with a huge consumption of energy with these sort of new technological revolution that we're in.
Yeah, makes sense. When you said grid, I kind of now understand what the word grid means
Me too.
because initially I was thinking like grid means like this interconnected thing that's somewhere nebulous.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to know that I know what you're talking about when you say grid. But you're right. Uh, I was kind of like surprised when Chandrajeet said that their experience with a third party was not great, and
Which
they
could be
could
possible. Yeah.
yeah, and they could do everything themselves. But I kind of understand for an old industry, like doing like doing massive changes is difficult because it's like
Yeah.
changing the wheels on the car as you're driving it kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Shadon, what
I'm
do you
just going
think?
to call them an established industry instead of an old industry.
Established. Yeah. Thank you. That's better. That's a better way of putting it. Absolutely. By old, I
But
just meant they've been around for many.
yeah,
But,
no,
Yeah.
but no, you're right. Established is probably better. Better framing. Thank you.
as an established human being, I
Uh,
no, I understand. I think so. I think what was interesting for me was, I don't know, maybe I had different expectations from the conversation, but given his expertise around the data, for me it was just more so enlightening to hear around just the level of data that they're actually collecting, and then overlaying that to
yeah.
do, the really the power of the analytics. I think so that was
Yeah.
what was actually impressive to me, because I haven't, when I think about companies that analyze at that level of data, it's really companies like tech companies, right? Like a Netflix and things like that
Yeah.
are literally grabbing real time data to understand consumer
Mhm.
behavior, to project business operations out into the future and things like that. And so for me, I was impressed with that side of it. But to your point, maybe there are other folks who are on the innovation side and things like that we can look at as future guests to to have those discussions.
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, because the one thing that I did walk away from, the excitement that I was walking away from, and by the way, I loved how excited he was about energy. Like seriously, like I just thought, like I don't know that many people are that passionate about it, but like he was so passionate, which was amazing, because of the complexity of it, and because of like the nuances and like all of the sort of the way the ecosystem works. Right, I really thought that was incredible. But the one thing that I got really excited about is, to your point, Shadon, given the level of data that they're collecting, the complexity of data that they're collecting, this kind of synthesis and analysis that they would have to do, I really think that AI is going to be a game changer for them. It's going to be a game changer, right? So whether it's integrated in the way that they would want now or not, either way, I mean, if we're headed in that direction. So we're in that direction now. And so I think the possibility of what they could do with that data is going to be pretty exciting, if they can build out the kind of infrastructure that they need and the integration that they need in a way that's responsible and ethical and all of that. But I really think that it could be an accelerant for, how they're servicing customers, but also like efficiency. And that's a huge aspect of energy, obviously, and sustainability.
Right. And it's not just the tech, right? So as we mentioned, the the small size nuclear plant,
Yeah. The micro, well, we call it micro, or what did he call it? Micro.
yeah,
Yeah.
micro site or something. So that is interesting, but I don't know if I'm looking forward to getting a micro nuclear plant in a heavy, densely populated area. But I get the idea, like keep it more
Yes.
local. So maybe
Yes.
maybe something less scary would be nice. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's just not about the tech. Like the tech in this case expands to like so much more rather than just like ones and zeros.
Yeah, and actually that made me think about how he was talking about, like when we asked him the question around like, could that address a lot of the inequity or sort of like the inequality that exists around who pays for energy really more than other people, other communities, who has access to it, etc. And I found it actually really interesting that he said, well, a lot of the homes of people that are living, like whether it's low income folks or people of color or other communities, they might be in homes that are not efficient. They might be in homes that actually are not utilizing the potential like benefits or the services or the infrastructure, right, to make sure that you are reducing energy cost. Which made me think that this is again a bigger challenge, right? It's a challenge of government, it's a challenge of local state governments to make sure that communities that don't have that in their homes do have it, so that they're not paying these premiums, but also to make sure that energy companies, I think, should also be saying, hey, we need to make sure that this infrastructure is in place, because that cost is, yes, on the family or the individual, but the cost is also to society, right? Because we're using energy in a way that I think we shouldn't be, in all honesty.
Yeah, no,
Well,
super complex issues. I didn't know how much I knew or how much I didn't know about
same.
energy and utilities. And so, no, I thought it was a great combo.
All right, folks. Well, thank you to my wonderful co-hosts, and we will see all of you next time. Please like us, share,